I want to start with your first injury.
Okay, sounds good. I should probably preface it a little bit then. Like, I'm just a kid who grew up in the dirt, like
That's right.
out in a town called Vail, Arizona. We didn't have paved roads or nothing, man. So we really like didn't have anything to do. Like, we just grew up creating our own fun, you know. So as that transpired, we kind of started getting into motorsports a little bit, like, you know, like quads and different things, going to the dunes and stuff like that. And most kids that reach a professional status on a dirt bike or a motorcycle, like, you know, you pay attention to supercross
Yeah.
and motocross, they start from a very young age. So I was already way past that. I was almost 13 when I started racing dirt bikes. And
Wow.
going through that time, I had to kind of fast forward it because I wanted to be a professional. So by the time I was right before my 18th birthday, I turned pro. So in a span of 6 years, I was able to, I don't know, just race and be a good rider. And so during that time, I learned a lot, and that's what we're going to get into, I think, today probably is I broke so many bones along the way because I was on the fast track, right? Like, I had to ride above and beyond my capabilities to go as fast as everybody else.
Yeah.
So that wasn't just breaking bones, it was a tutorial in life, because now I'm pushing past what everybody else was doing to get to the goal that I had. So it was really, really monumental for me to be able to learn those things at such a young age and not even know it.
And was that one of your goals, to go professional in motocross? That's
Yeah.
what you're shooting for?
Yeah, exactly. So even when we were about 15, 16 years old, like, we were making good money. Like, I would race every weekend. Well, I would say maybe at least 3 times a month. And they have what's this thing called contingency, where you make money from the manufacturers. They give you money to like buy parts and stuff through them. So it's kind of like a Suzuki Bucks is what they called it at the time.
Right.
And on a 80, I would race the 80 expert class, a bigger class, the 125 intermediate class, and the 250 intermediate class, all on one bike, because that's all we could afford. And I'd sweep the weekend.
Wow.
So I'd come home with anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 a weekend.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
this is just a little kid. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
know what I was doing. And we would just put everything back into the program because we couldn't afford to do the program ourselves.
That's amazing.
So fast forward, going through school and all that stuff, I had achieved my goal of being a professional dirt bike racer. And in 2019, I was able to race, I think, 4 or 5 supercrosses, and did fairly well. I just went with like one of the local guys that was near me. I just hopped in with him, or my dad took me or something. And I raced in Seattle, Phoenix. No, it was 3. So I raced in Phoenix, Seattle, and Dallas, and did decent. You know, I was able to make the show and stuff like that. And I was pretty proud of myself because I had done it in such a quick period of time, learned a lot along the way, and did it as a family. So there was a lot of cool things that happened. And at my first outdoor national here in Southern California at a place called Glen Helen, which you've probably heard of. Glen Helen's a pretty gnarly track. And they have this hill, it's called Mount St. Helens. It's like one of the biggest hills on the motocross circuit, if not the biggest. And going down it, there's a lot of braking bumps. You know what that is? Like speed bumps,
all
kind of
chopped up.
Yeah. So you're going down the hill, and I kind of got pulled off the back of the dirt bike. And when you get pulled off the back, like they have twist throttles on them, and it's called whiskey throttle. And so I got pulled off the back, and I gave it full throttle at the bottom of the hill instead of slowing down.
Oh no, was there a berm?
There was a little like scrub jump after it, which means that you slow down, you go over it, and then you hang a left into a berm. And I hit that. You're supposed to hit it like kind of shift down to second, scrub over it, and then hit the turn. And I hit it going 4th gear wide open as fast as I could. And what it did was it kind of bucked me off like a bucking bronco as I hit the jump. And so I became disconnected from the motorcycle, and I flew through the air, kind of just like they call it rolling up the windows.
Yeah.
So my legs and my feet are flailing in the air. And when I landed with both of my feet on the ground. In fact, I went so far, I went over the audience or the spectators that were there. So I went past the berm and over them. So
Whoa.
I probably flew in the neighborhood of maybe 90 or 100 feet or so. And when I landed on both of my feet. I broke both my legs, my tailbone, my back, and a little piece of my skull, and injured my arms as well because of the impact. They said it was approximately the impact of jumping out of a 7-story building, landing on your feet.
Jesus.
Yeah, so it was, yeah, I still remember to this day. I was laying there on the ground and I couldn't move because.
So you woke up right there on the ground injured.
I never passed out.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was there the whole time, and I'll get into the sucky part about it, but I still remember, like, right as I rolled to my side, a little kid went and stole my number plate and took off.
No way.
When something like that happens to you and your nerves become disconnected, I broke what's called the L1 vertebrae. It's kind of right above where your butt crack is, and I damaged the horse's tail of your spine. So your spine goes down, and then it kind of looks like a horse's tail. It comes off in little pieces. And I damaged that, and that took away all the feeling and movement from like your abdomen down. And so I was like, initial motocross guy, I was like, oh, I got to get up. I got to go. Like, I got to get back on the dirt bike. And I tried to do that, and I was stuck. I was like a sandbag is what it felt like. So it was like, something's really wrong. Like,
you just couldn't, nothing was moving.
No, and I didn't know that. I felt all the pain in my back and my head and stuff, but I didn't feel my legs were broken because they were paralyzed, right? Like, and so I was like, man, like I can't move. And so I was still kind of in the way of the track. So I just used my arms a little bit and like my elbow because my arm hurt. And so I like pushed myself off the track. And I was yelling because I couldn't really wave or anything. And I was yelling and screaming at the flagmen. And I was like, something's really wrong. Like, get the ambulance, get the medics out here. And it took them forever, dude. It took them so long. And I just remember being like, I think it's fixable. I think it's fixable. Like, I can still beat this. And then so they took me to the hospital, and that was the first time that they read me my last rites. And they rolled me in there, and they're like, dude, what? Like, they kept looking at me like, did you get hit by a car? Like, I was walking across the street and got hit by a car. I'm like, no, I'm in gear. Like, I'm in dirt bike gear. Like, and then so they figured out what was wrong with me. They took me to the hospital, and as they were rolling me in, that's when the priest came out, and he said, you know what, son? It's not looking good. Let's say a couple of prayers. And I was like, okay. And, you said you're a man of faith. So I was like, all right. And I am too. So I was like, all right, I'll do it. But I didn't get what he was talking about. And then the doctor comes up and he goes, we got to move, sir, to the priest. And he goes, I have to finish before he goes in there. And then so I was like, yeah, let him finish. So the doctor's just standing there like frantically. I'm like, let him finish, because you don't want to just leave him, right?
Yeah.
And so he goes, all right, the prayer's over. And he starts reading me my last rites and telling me, we hope you make it. Do you want to call anybody? I said, of course. Like, my brain still works. Like, of course, I want to talk to my family. And then so I get the opportunity, and I call my mom and dad, because I was 19 at the time. So I call my mom and dad.
Do they know you're in the hospital at that point?
No, they just think I'm out there racing.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So I call them, and I go, I got hurt. Can you guys get over here? The priest said it's not looking good. I got to go. And I hung up, like, I didn't know. And then 2 seconds later, or whatever it was, I don't know, maybe it's 10 minutes, but the anesthesia kicked in. I woke up, and my parents were there by my side. They drove 8 hours from Arizona to California in that amount of time, and they stayed with me for, I think it was a week or two in the hospital.
Wow.
And one of the most, like, gratifying or traumatic experiences that I ever had during that time was the doctor comes into the hospital room, and I'm already like super depressed, like, like you going from being an athlete and doing all this stuff to laying there. First thing out of his mouth was, I hope that you're feeling better, but I need to tell you right now that you have to get used to being in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. I looked at him straight in the eye, and I said, fuck you.
Yeah, you're not telling me that.
As loud as I could in there. He walked away, and I've never seen him again. Ever. Not one time did he ever come in and check on me again.
Wow.
And I think that was one of the biggest turning points in my life for me because it just showed what other people think about me. Again, I don't want anybody to control my vertical. It's up to me.
That's right.
So I didn't need to see him again.
And I'm sure that happens just talking to the audience here where exactly what happened to George. The guy, he wakes up from surgery, doctor saying you're never going to walk again. He says, fuck you. I'm going to go walk again. You're not going to tell me that, right?
Yeah, and truthfully, I had no idea what was going to happen, but I didn't want to take what he was telling me as
let
my
it
life.
Register in your head and you say, yep, that's who I am.
Because immediately that would have been a failure for me.
That's right.
And I didn't want that.
And so you guys, if somebody's saying you can't do that, you're not capable of this, you might have to take the step George said and said, absolutely not.
Right.
Because right when you start believing that, that's when you become weak to that, right?
Dude, 100%. And it doesn't matter whether you break your back or whether you're in a boardroom meeting and somebody says, hey, you know what? We got to make these changes. And you don't think it's right, step up and say that you don't think it's right. Because whether it is actually right or not, you did what was right for you.